Focus. Okay. Well, Father Miller here. I'm going to try to get back in focus. I don't know why my camera's out of focus, but anyway, this is the Nerd Father, and this is Divine Mercy Sunday. I didn't stream last week because obviously it was Easter, and Easter is one of the busiest times of the years for me. So I really needed a night off, and I took it. And the last few days have just kind of been a recovery from the whole Easter liturgy and everything. But it was pretty good time. I figured over the last week I drove about 900 miles because I had to head into our cathedral and we had the Chrism Mass. And one of the things we receive at the Chrism Mass, and I wasn't sure if I was going to show this, but these are the oils that we use during the sacraments throughout the year. Basically, the oil of the infirmed. This is the oil that we use for the anointing of the sick. Yeah, make sure the lids are on tight because I don't want to lose those. This is the sacred chrism, which is actually consecrated by the bishop. This is the oil that will be used whenever I baptize somebody, whenever we confirm somebody, whenever we have to really consecrate an item. So this is a special oil. And then this is the oil of the catechumens. This is used for the baptism because within the baptismal rite there are two anointings that happen. The one at the beginning with the oil of the catechumens, which I believe, if I remember, is on the top of the chest, and then the other is right after the baptism itself with the sacred chrism, which is on the forehead. So basically all the oil that is used in a diocese in every sacrament is done by the bishop, which is celebrated on the Chrism Mass, which for us is the Monday of Holy Week. So Palm Sunday, that's part of the reason I also didn't stream Palm Sunday, was I had to make the drive into town to go to the Chrism Mass, and we had the Mass on Monday, and then I had to get a new windshield installed because I had a rock chip, and that was fun. So I stayed in town a few days, and honestly, it was a good time to get away because Holy Week is busy for us. Since I have three parishes, I did 2 Holy Thursday services, and then I had 2 Good Friday services, and then I had the Easter Vigil, which in our part was at 8:30 Central. So that's kind of like the idea of the biggest mass. So the thing that was a little weird this year was this is the first time in 2 years that I celebrated it, because the Easter Vigil is the one where it begins with the fire. You have the church in total darkness, so the Easter fire is lit. The Easter candle is then lit from the Easter fire, brought into the darkened church to symbolize the resurrected Christ who conquers the death, who conquers the night. And as the candle is brought forward towards the altar, I don't sing. Wish I could, but I don't sing. But Christ our light is said 3 times, and the people respond, "Thanks be to God." And every time that is said, Christ our light, then I move forward more towards the altar, and the candles behind me are lit. So by the time I get to the head of the altar and say Christ our light for the 3rd time, all the candles in the church are pretty much lit, and it's beautiful because it's still no power is on. And ideally, if I had a singing voice, I would sing the Exalted. But again, I don't sing. If I had choir, I would have one of them do it. In the bigger parishes, that's the way we would do it. Unless we were blessed with the singing voice, which the Lord did not bless me with, but that's fine. So I just recited the Exalted, which is singing the Easter Joy. And one of the things I think is nice about reciting it is that I can enunciate the words that I'm saying. Where if I'm trying to sing it, hopefully I'm not off key, which I was when I had to sing it 14 years ago at our cathedral, because what happens in our diocese is all the seminarians are with the bishop during Holy Week, and we would celebrate Holy Thursday with the bishop, we would celebrate Good Friday with the bishop, and then one of the deacons to be ordained would sing the Exalted at the beginning of the cathedral, or at the beginning of the Easter Vigil. I was the only one in my class that made it to ordination. There were five of us, and four of them left right after either pre theology or college sim. So that meant for 4 years I got to look forward to singing the Exalted in a packed cathedral in front of the bishop, in front of my rector, in front of about, what, maybe 1,200 people. That was really humbling. So, looking back at it, I probably could ask for some help on how to do that, but I don't know. Anyway, so Easter was good. I then took Monday and kind of Tuesday off. I got the second shot of Moderna on Wednesday and never got any side effects, so I'm pretty happy about that. But today, the first Sunday after Easter, is, if you're Catholic, you know, is Divine Mercy Sunday. And for those that are not Catholic, this is, I don't want to really say this is a new devotion within the church, but what happened was in the 1930s, Jesus appeared to a simple Polish nun by the name of Sister Faustina. I want to make sure I pronounce her name correctly. I'm trying to remember which window I have this open. So, Sister Maria Faustina Kowalski, and our Lord called for a special feast to be celebrated the Sunday after Easter. And according to her diary, I have her diary somewhere, but tell the whole world about my inconceivable mercy. I desire that the Feast of Mercy be a refuge and a shelter for all souls, especially for poor sinners. On that very day, today, the very depths of my tender mercy are open. I pour out a whole ocean of graces upon the souls who approach the font of my mercy. The soul that will go to confession and receive Holy Communion, and again, this is 7 days before or 7 days after, shall receive or shall obtain complete forgiveness of sin and punishment. On that day, again today, are open the divine floodgates to which all graces flow. Let no soul be feared to draw near to me, even though its sins be as scarlet. My mercy is so great that no mind, be it of man or angel, will be able to fathom it throughout eternity. Everything that exists has come from the very depths of my most tender mercy. Every soul in its relation to me will contemplate my love and mercy throughout eternity. The feast of mercy will emerge from my very depths of tenderness. It is my desire that it be solemnly celebrated on the first Sunday after Easter. Mankind will not have peace until it turns to the font of mercy. And as it says here, the Divine Mercy Sunday is not a feast based solely on Sister Faustina or Saint Faustina's revelation. And I'm going to sneeze. I got to feel up here. But indeed, it is not primarily about it is Sister Faustina, Saint Faustina, nor is it a new feast. The second Sunday of Easter was already a solemnity as the octave day of Easter. The title Divine Mercy Sunday, however, highlights the meaning of the day. And it is during this day, during the Mass, the readings usually are the night that Jesus appeared to the apostles, even though they're in the locked room. And in this morning's Gospel from St. John, it's where Jesus breathes on the apostles and says, "Receive the Holy Spirit, who sins you forgive are forgiven, who sends you retain are retained." And we believe as Catholics that that's the institution of the sacrament of confession. That at that moment Jesus gave us the sacrament of confession, because as the Catechism describes, the sacrament is an outward sign instituted by Christ to give grace. So instituted by Christ, well, again, Jesus said, "Receive the Holy Spirit, who sins you forgive are forgiven, who sins you retain are retained." So when people ask, why do you have to go to the priest? Why can't I just go to God? Well, it's scriptural. I mean, this is the way that Jesus instituted how sins would be forgiven, by going to one of his priests. So my priesthood in the 13 years that I've been ordained, and the cat is playing with my microphone right now, confession has been one of the great joys I've had. I would say it was more of a bigger joy when I was in the bigger parishes, because my first two parishes were, I would say, probably about 1,000 to 1,200 parishioners. So during Holy Week, we would be in the confessional maybe 2 to 3 hours a day, and it would be nonstop confessions. So like that it's exhausting. It really is exhausting, but it's a good tired, and I'm not complaining about that. So so today we celebrate the Divine Mercy Sunday. It's the end of the octave of Easter, which I'll probably, hopefully, it won't come out wrong. But as a priest, I'm kind of glad that the octave is over, because as I was explaining to the stream yesterday, when we as priests pray the breviary, this is the Liturgy of the Hours. Let's see. So, as Liturgy of the Hours, this is one of 4 volumes that I pray. Okay, looks like my camera's back. I don't know why it does that, but this is volume number 2, I believe it is, which is covering the Lenten and Easter season. So, idea of it is coming from, I think it's the Old Testament, from the rising of the sun to the setting, praise be the name of the Lord. And this is broken up into what's known as 5 different hours. Now, if it was in a monastery, it would be the traditional 7 hours. But as priests, we are asked to pray 5. And the idea of it is, again, to pray from the moment you're waking up to the moment you're going to bed. So, morning prayer, daytime prayer, which is either mid morning prayer, midday prayer, or mid afternoon prayer. So, midday prayer, mid afternoon prayer is one of those 3 time periods. And then it's evening prayer and night prayer. And then somewhere in between that is what's known as the office of readings. Now, as I was telling the rabbi on one of the recent streams, we pray the Psalms. And this is what the majority of the Liturgy of the Hours is praying the Psalms of the Old Testament with a lot of scriptural readings as well. The thing is, the Psalms are different for each day of the week. But during the octave of Easter, the Psalms are the same every day. So we would celebrate, just trying to think of how to say it. So the Psalms for like yesterday would be coming from Easter Sunday. So the antiphons we would take would be from Easter Sunday. Then we would have to jump into the first week, the morning prayer of week 1 to do the Psalms from that. And then we would have to jump back to Saturday of the octave of Easter to be able to do the reading, the Canticle of Zechariah, and the petitions and everything. Long story short, it gets complicated. Now that we're out of the octave, it gets a little bit easier to pray this. So, but yeah. So other than that, I'm trying to think what else was going on. I saw an article. It looks like the Pope celebrated the Easter Vigil alone. Let's bring that up. Oh, where the heck? There we go. I think it is. Okay, so this is from CBS News. And I guess Europe is on lockdown again. As I mentioned, one of the things that was nice about the Chrism Mass is being able to see a lot of my brother priests that I haven't seen in over a year. This was the first time I've gone to the Chrism Mass in 2 years. I didn't go last year just because, again, nervous about it all. So, I'm trying to think. One of the priests I ran into is one of my brother priests that works over in the Vatican, and it's probably been a few years since I saw him, and I was actually kind of dumbfounded to see him because I didn't think they were able to travel out of Italy and everything. So anyway, but this is the second Holy Week that Pope Francis had to celebrate amid the guidelines, making it nearly impossible for him to mingle with people. This isn't the Pope Francis style, walking the stations in the deserted St. Peter's Square. He usually spends Good Friday at the Colosseum, surrounded by thousands of faithful. Let's see. Okay, so where there's a vaccine, there's a way. Okay. But I guess on Friday, Pope Francis made a surprise visit to some of the 1,200 homeless getting their vaccine shot in the Vatican during Holy Week. Let's see, the Pontiff. Okay, I didn't know he had the Pfizer shot. Myself, I had the Moderna. And like I said, The only thing that I felt was a little soreness in the arm, and that was about it. Didn't have a fever. I think the headache might have been allergies, but anyway. So, uh, yeah. And the pandemic hasn't also helped church finances with fewer people visiting the Vatican or attending churches. There's been an increase in empty collection plates and empty Vatican museums, a source of tens of millions in revenue. That kind of brings me back to my priest friend that works over in the Vatican because, according to him, the Pope Francis has told the cardinals, the bishops, and the priests that work over there that they're to have a pay cut this coming year. While the lay people that still work over there is not to have one. So, anyway, but good to have everybody here. Like I said, this is my third stream in 3 days, so I've been doing the stream weekly with a rabbi from another planet. We've been rotating between our channels. Friday was hosted on my channel. This coming Friday, I'll be on his channel, and that's been at 8 in the morning Central, which is, I think, 6 o'clock his time. And since it's on a Friday, he has to get ready for the Sabbath. So, but like I said, if anybody has questions or anything, I'll be happy to answer them. But there was an article that was talked about on Friday Night Tights, and something that I was talking with the rabbi about. As you know, I'm a big Trekkie. I am going out to Vegas this summer for the Nerdrotic get together. I'm looking forward to it. It was supposed to happen last December during the Star Trek convention, but Nevada went on lockdown, so that got canceled, and we were still going to have to get together until Nevada basically cracked down even further, and everything got postponed. So, Gary just said that they're going to be doing it again this August, so thankfully, Delta was able to allow me to cancel my plans last year because I had the insurance, and plus with the thing that shall not be named, I was able to get a voucher. So I got to use my voucher, and it works out where I can go to Vegas for this get together. So, but one of the things that just dumbfounded me is this is on the official Star Trek page, and I guess there's this guy by the name of the Star Trek Communist. Anyway, let's look at this article. Workers of the world unite. You have nothing to lose but your chains. Karl Marx and Rom. Now, I gotta be careful because I know when they were talking about this on Friday Night Tights, it crashed the stream. And as I've mentioned before, when I've talked about some of the social issues on here, namely during a homily when I was live streaming the Mass, YouTube or StreamYard muted my mic, but I think it was last Monday or it was last Tuesday that was first contact. No, it was last Monday. Last Monday was first contact day, coming from Star Trek First Contact. The tradition was, and I think it was April 5th, 2063 or 2163, the first warp flight was made, and when that happened, there were Vulcans that were nearby that detected the warp signature and decided to check it out, and that's when humans and Vulcans made first contact. I watched the end of Star Trek 4, and I love Star Trek 4. It's probably my second favorite Star Trek movie after The Wrath of Khan. But it was also the first time I saw Generations in I don't know how many years. Next Generation, I watched when it came on. I don't know if it's aged as well with time. I mean, there are episodes that are really good. I just haven't sat down and probably watched it in 20 years. But one of the things I remember is when Picard took one of the 20th or 21st century people that was wounded up into the Enterprise, and when the Borg took over, they had to kind of protect the people. Picard was basically describing to this woman, because it's like, how can you afford this? Well, they said the accusation of wealth is no longer a driving force in our lives. We work better to better ourselves and the rest of humanity. So Uh, the idea was that the Federation would be a perfect world to live, a nice utopia. As this article says, it has unlimited food, no wars. I really don't know about that part. I think the Romulans, and depending on what era, the Klingons would beg to differ. You got holographic medical care, and I love the Doctor from Voyager. And it's great in short, and hope springs eternal among Trek faithful that the future represented on screen is a future we'll one day achieve. I really don't think that's going to happen. Mainly because one of the things they avoid on Star Trek, and I'm kind of glad that they do, is religion. Because, anyway, I think you probably know where I'm going on that. But Will Nguyen is a fan that questions that a lot. How do you actually achieve a one world government with no national borders where we've eliminated poverty and war and hunger and disease? That's not going to happen. Seriously, that's not going to happen. Not from a religious aspect, because I'm not going to deny Christ. I don't think the Muslims are going to deny Muhammad. So, both can't be right. So I really don't see this happening. Uh, that's the thing. The Star Trek is very detailed about the makeup of that utopian future, but it's not clear on the assembly. We got the Bell riots coming up in 3 years. Okay, I'm not familiar with. Oh, that's probably Star Trek canon. Give or take, and then sometime in the next 40 years, we got a World War III to contend with. I don't think it really has to be like that. I mean, this isn't the Star Trek canon, but it doesn't have to be humanity. Okay, so possibly featuring genetic augmented Superman, basically Khan and his group, and ultimately first contact with the human alien society before we're off to the races. Nguyen thinks the answer is communism. That's never happened. It's never succeeded. I am in my mid 40s. I remember 1989 very well, even though I was only 15 at the time. It was a great time because communism fell apart. And I'm born in 74, which means I would have been 9, 1983. For some reason, I was always into the Kennedy assassination. I still remember November 20th, I think it was, or 22nd, 1983. ABC was airing the day after, basically nuclear war breaking out between America and the Soviets and the effects on a small Kansas town. Well, my parents put my brother, sister, and I into another room, and I remember watching the Kennedy miniseries on NBC with Martin Sheen, while Dad was watching The World Go to Hell on ABC. That said, I've now seen The Day After. Oh, I have it on DVD. I don't have the Blu-ray, but I bought it probably 20 years ago. I'm glad I never saw it as a kid. I'd be in therapy if I did. The idea that communism is going to bring it about? Only through a socialist revolution to overthrow capitalism, the next stage of human development, can you actually do that. Well, it's not working in Venezuela. Cuba's not happening. Didn't happen in the Soviet Union. Look at North Korea. Look at China. And even though some may say China's growing economically, it's coming at a big cost. Um, he's calling himself the Star Trek communist. He dons costumes from multiple eras of Trek. You know what? I like to know where he gets his money for this. A costume is not cheap. Anyway, from Monster Maroon of the original series movies to the bright colors and sharp edges of Lower Decks, which absolutely stunk. I watched the first episode and you know what? Didn't even laugh. And for some reason, that's been renewed for 2 seasons. 2 more seasons. Posting frequently on Trek fan pages and Facebook groups. His preferred pose is toasting the camera with a blue beverage that's probably not Romulan ale. I can't believe. I mean, I can. I mean, they're actually giving this garbage on the official StarTrek.com news page. Well, the effect was immediate. Oh, okay. So he signed many of his photos with the simple slogan "Communism will win." I doubt that. I know that Penn Teller, Penn and Elliot, or Penn and Teller, so Penn Jillette, usually they're both big time atheists. I know when they sign photos and autographs, they say something about atheism or there's no God or something like that. Uh, so how Will became a Star Trek fan and a cosplayer is a pretty common story, one that most Trek fans would identify with. This should be interesting. It will, if you, I think my journey, if you will, started out like many of my generation. Bad pun. I was a next generation baby. I grew up watching it on syndication. Watched that entire crew whenever it was on TV. I think my parents allowed me to watch it because they thought it was somewhat educational because it was set in space and there was a lot of talking. Well, by that logic, Star Wars is an educational movie. Let's see, skipping some of that. So when I had the ability to at least get uniforms or costumes, I didn't have to ask my parents to buy me something because they wouldn't. Good parents. I just buy costumes and have them tailored. I'm not skilled like those many others, very talented cosplayers that make their own uniforms and costumes and props. I'm friends with a lot of them and I'm really impressed. Attending conventions and adding his collective of costumes, connecting with other fans, allowed for no doubt that Nguyen was a Trekkie, but becoming the Star Trek communist would take more time and more heartbreak. Yeah. It's not my fault that your species decided to abandon currency-based economics in favor of some philosophy of self-enhancement. Oh, well, there we go. That's what they were talking about on Friday. Following the run-up to the election of 2016, he found himself disillusioned with the two major political parties and went looking farther left for answers. So, definitely not a Trump supporter, and I'm guessing he wasn't a big Biden fan. So I wonder who he is supporting. Let's just check comments as we're doing this. Good to see you, Miss Martin. Thanks again for joining me yesterday. Chris P's here. Yeah, exactly. Where's the Klingons? Especially Star Trek 3. Search for Spock. Let's see. I've seen one episode, one or two episodes. I'm more of a Futurama guy. Yeah, Barb, I grew up with Star Trek. I remember coming home from school every day and it would be on ABC at 4 in the afternoon. As I was explaining to somebody once recently, it's kind of like I've seen the episode so many times over the course of my life that I wish I could go back and experience it for the first time. I'm kind of getting that right now as I'm watching a lot of Britcoms, stuff that I've never seen before. The New Statesman with Rick Mayall. Loved it. Couldn't believe I had never heard of it before, and I watched it for the first time and loved it. So, I mean, I'm kind of getting that experience again with some of these shows I've never heard and loving them. But I wish I could go back and watch these classics for the first time and just not knowing anything about it. So, anyway, this guy's probably a Bernie supporter. And look at that. He spent 2016 to 2020 firming up his views. I wonder who was in office then. And in 2021, he's thoroughly impressed with what either party has to offer. Eventually, he realized that his political beliefs and his hobbies aligned, and the Star Trek communist was born. You know, I'm going to be very careful here, but I am going to guess most of the Nguyen's I know are from Vietnam. And I know a lot of Vietnamese that would be very unhappy with him, disagreeing with him. I know a few Vietnamese priests as well that would not agree with this guy. So, let's see. Deep Space Nine. Whoops. Well, go back to that. Okay. Okay, so you got Deep Space Nine, you got Voyager, and I've seen good part. You got this abomination that claims to be Star Trek, but I refuse to call it Discovery. I watched about 10 minutes of the first episode when they aired it on CBS. Hated it. I'm not even going to give it a try. And then you got the Next Generation. So the reality is we actually live in a post-scarcity world now. There's often an argument that people say, oh, you only get the Star Trek future because you have a replicator box in the wall. And you know, only then can you have socialism or communism. Which I would say that's very disingenuous dodge because we already have the ability to house and clothe and care everyone right now. That's not that hard. The Earth has the ability to feed 10 billion people. North Korea. Communism has never worked. Over time, Nguyen had applied his Marxist belief to Trek and drew some pretty revolutionary conclusions. However, he doesn't believe he's the only one to do so. Yeah. Again, quoting Picard. His approach seems at first glance shallow. He doesn't spend a lot of time debating his haters. Well, gee, imagine that. Or engaging in nuanced descriptions of theory. Though talking to him for even a few minutes shows that he's more than capable of doing so. That's nice. This guy's a nut. Anyway. It's about... yeah. I'm gonna skip the rest of that. Oh, look at that. They got the pronouns in there. The article. So that kind of tells you a lot there too. So, anyway. Yeah, so I already answered. So as I mentioned on the stream with the rabbi, or yesterday, one of the things I did when I was in town, the comic book store had a big sale, and I kind of I won't show the amount, but this was my receipt. I was pretty happy with it. But basically picked up a lot of old Supermans from the 60s and 70s. And the thing that was nice is it's half off price. So I think this one's from the late 60s. As you can see on the description, it is in fair condition. Figuring that it was half off. What is it? $1.35 for this comic. That's in fair condition. Yeah. I mean, figured a new comic today is going for $5. I'm trying to think, where's the one that I just got recently? I was going to be on a stream with Nick, the 32 Flavors of Nick Weiser. So this one just came out last week from Image. Geiger, basically about family 20 years after a nuclear war breaks out. Just to show you how much it is. I hate these camera things. There we go. $3.99. This almost 60-year-old comic for $1.35 versus a $4 comic. So, yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. But, I mean, the thing that was really neat, too, is I think this one I picked up is a Superman number 155 from 1962, if I remember. And it's in poor condition, but even still, you paid $3.25 for it, and that's still cheaper than what new comics are going through right now. But I mean, even some of these old, or the newer ones from the '60s, and This was a fun one that I read this morning. Basically, when Superman killed his friends. I really am sick with DC right now because I like these old covers. And I posted this one on Twitter this morning. Basically, that Superman has like a cowbell on, put on by the mob to warn people when he's near, and he can't take it off because if he does, bombs placed throughout Metropolis would explode, killing people. So again, this is a good rated a good condition, so $3 half off. But even got a Batman one. I don't see how this is poor condition yet, but I haven't opened it up yet. But this is number 183. So I'm going to guess 60s, late 60s, probably early 70s because Batman, the TV show's on. So, but I mean, the thing that's nice about these old comics is the art and the camp. Are you ready for Batman's moment of truth? Another one, Action Comics, number 401. Superhero becomes supervillain and Vader go home. Well, one comics I've been collecting a lot of lately over the last few years is the Lois Lane ones. Not the new ones that came out about a year ago. Let's see. So, you got Woman in Quicksand, Woman being crushed by a snake, and Superman can only save one. So again, about $3.25 for that one. But then got a little older with this one. I'm gonna have to look up this one, but this is Superman's girlfriend Lois Lane, number 30. Basically, where Superman supposedly has a secret wife. Let me look up that one real quick. Okay, that one is from January 1962. So this comic's about 59 years old. Even though it's in poor condition, according to the no, it's labeled as fair condition. Still cheaper than a new comic today. And even if I didn't buy it half off, it's still just a little bit more expensive than what a new comic goes for. Why am I going to pay a lot more for new comics that are garbage? So there was one other I was going to show. Let me see. Let's see. This one is Superman 189. It's basically Crypto, the dog. So the way I understand it, comics were 12 or 10 cents. I think the Golden Era comics were 10 cents, then they jumped to 12 cents, then they jumped up to 15. A lot of the comics I'm collecting are the 12 to 15, even the 25. But was able to get a bunch of these also, the reprints of the Weird Fantasy Tales from the early 50s. They did a reprint of this about, probably 10, 15 years ago, and that was before I really got back into comics. But the one that I've also been collecting on, and hopefully YouTube won't strike it down because they'll be showing the German Madman, but I've been collecting a lot of Sergeant Fury. And if you've seen any of my streams lately, you know that I ended up investing in Sergeant Fury number 16, which is the first modern appearance of Captain America with Bucky post, I don't know, Silver Age, I think it is. So that one did cost a little bit, but it was worth it. But then there's one other one that probably, two of these I'll show, the last two. This one's a 15-cent one. Basically, poor Superman. Let's see, move this thing down here. The super panhandler of Metropolis. So, and then finally, the thing I love about the older Superman, he comes off as a jerk. So yeah, that was last week. The store I go to usually has a half off sale twice a year. So, and since I'm from out of town, he knows I'm from out of town. He lets me take a part of it if I'm there right before or right after the sale, if I can't make it right at the sale time. So, but I think that's about all I got for tonight. Like I said, it's been a busy last 2 to 3 weeks. Got another week before the full immunity kicks in, and then I'm gonna head home to Iowa because I grew up in eastern Iowa. My parents still live there, and I haven't been back since August of 2019. So I am looking forward to making a trip there. The only thing is, I'm just trying to figure out when, because my hope was to maybe take the train. Because from where I'm at, the train leaves on Sunday night and gets into eastern Iowa on a Monday morning. Then I can catch the train on a Friday night, get back here on a Saturday morning. But the problem is the Friday train doesn't really start heading back here until late May. And by then, because I'll be making my canonical retreat at the end of May. So I don't know what I'm going to do yet, but I'm going to try to do another stream next week. I am streaming with the Rabbi on Friday on his channel. So I thank you for watching. Like I've always said, if you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing. Hit the ring bell on the bottom of the window so that way you can be notified whenever I go live or whenever there's new videos. I'm going to try to do some stuff this week. I got to catch up with some of the finances, the bills. It's about that time of the month. I got to get the bills sent in and everything and a lot of other things. So with that, I thank you for joining me. And until next time, God bless.